Alright, second episode of my new series. So today I'm going to be talking about the movie The Dark Knight, which I rewatched about a week ago, and as usual, I really loved it. So this movie is one of my all-time favorite movies and a childhood favorite of mine. I've watched this movie maybe 25 times in the past decade, more possibly more. Sort of hard to tell. Um, this movie is the best superhero movie, with a possible exception of Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984. As everybody knows in the audience, that movie is the best, second best superhero movie ever made. And I think should just move on from that. So anyway, back to an actually good movie. This movie is a fantastic example of a perfect pace, even storytelling, perfect action set pieces, great use of modern and traditional filmmaking techniques. This movie has amazing performances, specifically Heath Ledger as the Joker, which will be playing throughout this video. I love the movie's pace and its tension and its great proclivity to keep you on the edge of your seat. So with that, I just want to start talking about my favorite scenes from the movie. And it's in no particular order. I'm just gonna tell you the best ones. So probably my first awesome scene in The Dark Knight is the "How about a magic trick" scene, and just that whole sequence around the table with all these like tough looking people, and then he just comes in and he's like, "Oh, your balls dropped off and you're not gonna have a nickel for grandma." I just think that's so funny. I always used to think that's such a funny scene. And then there's this like scrawny looking dude on the television, and he's like, "I know the squealers when I see them," and that guy's gonna like give up all your money in a second. Which turns out to be true. Next favorite scene is the whole sequence after Coleman Reese goes on television and the Joker says he's gonna murder him. Or he's gonna murder a bunch of people in a hospital. He's gonna blow up a hospital if Coleman Reese isn't dead in 60 minutes, I believe it is. And then you just get this great ensemble soundtrack with people trying to assassinate Coleman Reese, and you see like the city turning against itself. And then of course there's the iconic scene of him walking away from Gotham General after he's converted Harvey to the dark side. Next favorite scene is probably the ferry scene. I really like, it's sort of like a redemption arc for the city. Like, we see the city the whole time tearing itself apart, eating its own, like turning against Batman, turning against Coleman Reese, turning against all these people that they should be protecting against the Joker. But then the redemption is the people of Gotham don't turn on each other in the end, and even the prisoners decide to spare our regular citizens of Gotham. And by the way, I have a great impression of the Batman from that scene where he's like, the Joker's on top of him and he's confused about why they haven't blown themselves up. So this is how Batman sounds. I want everyone to hear this impression. And I've been told it's really great, okay? So it's this. What are you trying to prove? That deep down, everyone's as ugly as you. Okay, that's my great impression. And don't get me started on my Joker impression. It's a great impression. But we'll save that for later. Hold on, I was gonna say something, I just totally forgot. Oh damn it, what did I forget? Alright, I don't remember. Next favorite scene, probably my favorite of the entire movie, is the back and forth, sequence between Rachel and Harvey when they're all wired up to explosives, and the Joker tricks Batman into going to save Harvey, and Harvey's dousing himself in gasoline, and you sort of see what's happening. It's really tragic, and I love how Christopher Nolan doesn't even give Rachel last words. She just blows up mid-sentence, which is so cruel, but it's so awesome. I always tear up on that part, even though I've seen the movie 50 something times, 25, whatever it is. I always get emotional at that part, and the end with Lieutenant Gordon's family. That part's really good as well. I should also say this movie is the one movie where I've memorized every single line of dialogue. There's almost no part of the movie that I don't know what's going to be said, and somehow the movie doesn't get boring for me. I don't know why, but this movie I can watch over and over and over and over and over again, and I don't know, it just doesn't get boring for me. It's probably the most entertaining movie of all time, I'd say. But that's not a statement that says it's not complex and the characters aren't well fleshed out, and it doesn't present an interesting premise and a great execution. No, this is top tier filmmaking in a genre with a lot of not top tier filmmaking. Don't get me wrong, I like superhero movies a lot, but none of them captured in my opinion, none of them captured the potential of the superhero film better than The Dark Knight and the trilogy as a whole, specifically the first two. The last one I do like a lot, but I do acknowledge it's quite flawed. Although it is very entertaining and has some great moments, I just think it's not as smart as the first two. Next favorite scene is Alfred telling Bruce that perhaps he doesn't understand the Joker, and telling him the story about the bandit that throws the rubies away. And it's just a sport, and maybe Batman is facing an opponent that he'll never be able to outsmart, because there's no real logical objective with the Joker. It's pure chaos, and that's why the Joker's such a great villain. He's purely unpredictable, unchained, intelligent, and in many cases contradictory. Joker says he doesn't have a plan, but that can't be true. We see him execute brilliant plans throughout the whole movie. But the point is, with the Joker, reality is always distorted. And my favorite movie, A Clockwork Orange, my favorite movie along with Barry Lyndon, those are my two favorite movies. But in A Clockwork Orange, Alex is, in many ways, an inspiration for Joker in The Dark Knight. Not necessarily in characterization, but the performance has that same sort of unsettling, unpredictable, unchained mentality that makes you constantly wonder what's the next move. Alright, next favorite scene is the sequence where the judge dies and I believe the police commissioner, I believe that's who it is, the guy that drinks from the glass, I believe is the police commissioner, dies. And then Joker, like, bashes Bruce's party. And he gives the famous second monologue about, wanna know how I got these scars? The scene is so tense and beautifully shot. We see, like, Bruce putting his weight behind Harvey and Harvey's future. We see Batman, in my opinion, reveal his identity to the Joker as Bruce Wayne when he jumps after Rachel, but that's just my own personal theory. I made another video on that called, I think it's called Joker Knows Batman is Bruce Wayne. I'll put that on the end cards so you can go get it, look at it. And my next favorite scene, probably, most likely the interrogation scene, and you could do like analysis on it forever, really. It's just such a great scene. The acting is phenomenal. The physicality of the performances are just exceptional. The anger in Batman, the just like the screw you mentality in Joker. It's truly the embodiment of what he says in the end about an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Batman has finally met someone he cannot best, even if he wins. Which, in my opinion, is why Joker is the best villain of the whole trilogy. I think every other one of the villains was just about beating them physically, which Batman eventually does. Joker, it's something else. It's about never winning. You can't win with the Joker because what he's doing is something more intelligent. He wants to crush the people's spirit to go on. And he probably does. I mean, they try to save it at the end by saying Harvey died like at night or whatever, but I don't think the city was ever recovered from it, and that's pretty clear. Next favorite scene has to be the scene with at the end. One of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite, maybe my second favorite, when Joker and Batman are just dueling it out and Joker falls to his death, but Batman saves him, and then Joker says, you just couldn't let me go, could ya? And then he says, I think you and I are destined to do this forever. and then he reveals that Harvey has been turned, and it's sort of like Batman realizes he lost. But it's a complex ending. In many ways, the city at least kept itself together, didn't turn on each other. But in many ways, they lost their best hope for the future. And they lost Batman in a good sense, because Batman has to, take the role of a villain at the end. Alright, that's just about the end of what I love about this film. The only flaws that I care to talk about are just a few things. Christopher Nolan, or Christopher Nolan Space Brain as I like to call him, sometimes he overcomplicates things, and sometimes his films can have some logical inconsistencies. A good example of this in The Dark Knight is the gun in the courtroom scene with Harvey. Unrealistic. But that's basically one of the only flaws in an otherwise perfect film. Thank you for joining me, and peace out. Before I let you go completely, I gotta say that it's pronounced Ra's al Ghul, not Raz al Ghul. And also, I watched this film with my grandmother, who hates action movies, and even she said this was a beautiful movie. Alright, peace out.